The more I study about the Mughals and their harem, the more shocked I am. So, the Mughals were this dynasty that emerged in the 1500s in India, and their rulers were essentially Muslims. So, their households also had something called a harem, which was a designated space for females. And when you read about the harem from a Western perspective, it sounds like a fantasy land where the Sultan did God knows what and the women there were always ready to seduce. But when you delve deep into what the harem actually was and what went on in there, it was very different from the Western sexual fantasy that were depicted. The women there actually had impeccable amount of power and independence, and some of them were also scholars. But in this video, we'll have a look at how and how much that some of the Mughal princesses and other women in the Mughal court earn. Hi, my name is Misha and welcome to Tarihi Tales. If you want to watch this video in Urdu, I have another channel where you can listen to this in Urdu, and I'll put the link down in the description box. And if you want to help our channel thrive, you want to help us grow, you can do that by multiple different ways. You can help us out by becoming a paid member on Patreon, or by becoming a paid member of this channel, or by using the number on the screen. And you can always like, share, subscribe, comment. All of that really helps us out as well. Thank you. Oh, also, if you want to know where I get my information from, what are my sources, everything is listed down below in the description box. So have a look. So when we talk about Mughal royalty, the women in the court actually had a lifestyle that was very empowered. If you want to know exactly what the lifestyle was, let me know and I'll make more videos about that. But when we talk about economics and finance, like how these women were earning and how much, we find that these women actually had various outlets to earn. Some of them were international and some domestic. Let's start with the domestic bit first. Now, to understand how these women earned, I'm going to be looking at actual examples and walking you through them. And first, we'll talk about the ever-famous Nur Jahan. Nur Jahan was the wife of Jahangir, who was a Mughal emperor, so she was actually a queen, and a very powerful one. Now, in order to earn, a lot of Mughal women are found to have administrative control over different regions and towns, and they used that to earn a living. In the case of Nur Jahan, we have sources telling us that the town of Bharuch actually earned her somewhere around 230,000 Mahmudis. Mahmudi was a silver coin of 88 grains. This money was actually earned through tolls that were levied on internal trade within the region. She also had a Jahangir, which was a Jahangir of Toda and was on an important trade route between Surat and Agra. And this Jahangir also earned her an additional 2 lakh rupees. She also earned from Sikandra, where her officers put duties on goods coming in from other areas. Things like cotton from Bengal, silk from Patna, and some spices from here and there. Now, it's kind of difficult to understand exactly how rich they were and exactly how much they were earning, because 2 lakhs today doesn't seem like a lot, right? But at that point in time, 2 lakhs meant a completely different number. It was actually a fortune back then. Now, just to put it into perspective as to how much value 2 lakh might have had then, in the year 1690, the East India Company bought 3 villages, which later became the city of Calcutta. And can you guess how much they bought the villages for? Pick a number, put it down below in the comments. Let's see if you're right. I'm gonna give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Okay, so the East India Company bought the villages for 1300 rupees. 1300. Now compare that with 2 lakh rupees. So 2 lakh must have been a fortune, because, well, you can buy an entire village for 1300. Or actually no, 3 villages for 1300. So now that you have an idea, a gauge of the value of rupees during that time period, let's move on to some more examples, like the princess Jahanara. This princess was the daughter of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal. Mumtaz Mahal is the same person for whom the Taj Mahal was actually built. Now, this princess, unlike Nur Jahan, she's not married, she doesn't have kids, she's not a queen, she's just a princess. Now, she earned about 30 million dams, which was equal to rupees 750,000 from the region of Surat, and then an additional 10 million dams, rupees 250,000, from port dues. And you'd imagine that while these princesses must have like managers and people managing all their money, they might not even know what's going on and they're just getting money. But really know, we actually find that Jahanara was quite hands on and she took business into her own hands very seriously. She once issued a nishan, which was like a royal order, where she acknowledged the receipt of musk pods which were grown on her lands. In another nishan, she actually complains about the quality of ice boxes from the region of Garhwal. And these nishans are something that not everybody can issue. Only like specific royal people were able to issue them. So the fact that she's issuing them means that she physically is the person who's issuing them. It's not like some courtier doing it for her. In a third nishan, she's actually seen telling her officers to be very diligent while collecting snow from the mountains and to make sure that the laborers are actually paid immediately. Manuki informs us that Jahanara actually had an income of about rupees 3 million, in addition to the revenues that she earned from the port of Surat. And we find similar situations very true for other royals as well. But these princesses and queens, they didn't only just earn through tolls and taxes and all of these things. They actually had like business empires, international business empires that they worked very hard on. And honestly, I was very surprised to read all of this because who would have thought? For example, the Emperor Jahangir's mother actually owned a fleet of vessels which ran the pilgrimage route from India to Makkah, and that earned her a lot of money. And when the ships docked at Jeddah, which was the port town closest to Makkah, the ships would then engage in trade because Jeddah was a central hub of trade at that point, and goods would come there from all over the world. Other than that, the vessels themselves actually were very expensive. They were of course an investment, and the largest one of the vessels was called Rahimi. Some idea of its value can be known from the fact that when the Portuguese captured one of these ships in 1611, they demanded 30,000 reals in exchange for the vessel. Similarly, the queen we talked about earlier, Nur Jahan, also did a lot of work with international traders, and a lot of her things like embroidered cloth and indigo dye actually brought her a lot of profits. And Nur Jahan is actually said to be a very practical businesswoman, and she's even willing to do some things that other people from that time were not willing to, like working with the Portuguese. And she did that quite often because there are receipts of her paying the cartes due to the Portuguese. Similarly, her relations with the British were actually also quite friendly, and she worked with them a lot, and oftentimes for trade benefits would give them concessions as well. Like in 1627, she passed an order exempting them from transit duties. Eventually, as time went on, we find that Nur Jahan actually began trusting the English a lot more than the Portuguese because goods were more safer in their ships, so she would prefer using ships of the East India Company. One of the people that frequently dealt with Nur Jahan was Thomas Roe, an ambassador of Queen Elizabeth I, and he actually called her his solicitor and her brother Asif Khan as his broker. And his letters back to England actually are filled with admiration for Nur Jahan and her business ethics, as well as all the concessions and things she's given to the British. Now, Jahanara, the princess we talked about earlier, also carried out international trade through her ships called Sahibi and Ganjavar. We have records of one of her ships taking goods worth rupees 5,000 to 10,000 rupees to Jeddah and then selling them there, and from the profits they bought horses and brought them back to India. There are other documents found from Persian sources where we see that Jahanara actually vetted the entire crew of her ship herself and made sure that each person on board was somebody she trusted. And we also see that a lot of foreign companies actually wanted to work with these princesses and queens because they were really good patrons, and once you gained their trust, and if they thought that you're doing good work, they were really diligent with working with you. So just like modern day, the companies actually would send these princesses gifts to kind of get their favors. For example, the English sent Jahanara some oils, nutmegs, cloves, and mace, of which these sorts the Begum Jahanara is very desirous. In 1655, the Dutch tried to win over Jahanara by giving her and her wet nurse gifts of Japanese lacquer. Other than their own ventures and their own businesses, a lot of these women were constantly being gifted things by the emperor himself as well, which added to their... But you might wonder, like I was wondering, what did these princesses and queens do with all this money? Well, obviously they spent some of it on themselves, but we see a lot of them actually spending back the money and investing it into India itself, like the Princess Jahanara used her own money to build one of the largest caravanserais in which is now Old Delhi, it was then Shah Jahanabad, and she also established the very well-known market today in Old Delhi, which is Chandni Chowk. She designed the entire thing and she made the entire thing, and she did all of that with her own money, not with the state's money. We have other examples of people doing the same, like Akbar's nanny Mahamanga basically paid for a mosque in Delhi, and we have records of Jahangir's mother paying for the Shahi Mosque in Lahore in 1611 and also for some fountains in nearby areas. The Mughals were also known for their gardens, and we find that Nur Jahan actually commissioned a couple of them between the years 1618 and 1620. So there we go. That is how a lot of these Mughal princesses and queens were earning money, and I was quite shocked because I imagined them not doing much, but turns out they were doing a lot. And that is how much and how these Mughal princesses were earning. Let me know what you think about this video, and I will be seeing you guys next time. Bye.